I really enjoyed The High Note. I was so intrigued by the trailer, and I have to say the movie 100% met my expectations. It was so good.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so great. It's always nervous to live up to the expectations of the trailer.
Now, this is a film about women. It's written by a woman. It's, of course, directed by a woman.
Yes.
And it made me wonder, how are things changing in the film industry right now for female filmmakers?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, I always feel like things are getting better because I just see anecdotally, like friends getting more opportunities and more films being directed by women and more executives making an effort to include women. But then, then those statistics come out from the DGA and from Variety, and you just like hit this wall because you think, oh my God, it got worse. It didn't get better at all. It actually got worse this year. And how is that possible? How can we go from it being dismal to even worse? So, I mean, it's such a tough thing to figure out because I always feel like society is progressing and getting better, but then these numbers show that it's really incremental change and often slides backwards right on top of its progress. So I don't know how to answer that. It feels like, I got the opportunity to direct my first studio film. At the same time, the amount of women being allowed to direct studio films is horribly low.
Now, you've done some fantastic films before, but as you said, this is your first big studio film. How was the experience different for you?
Incredibly different. I mean, you walk in with a whole studio behind you. There's, all the resources you could ever want. There's, a huge team of professionals. There's, also a lot of pressure because there's a lot of, with those resources comes all the responsibility of making sure those resources pay off. So, it was, for me, it was a really positive experience because I was with a very filmmaker-friendly studio focus. I was with an incredibly director-friendly producer company called Working Title. So it really was just like a fantastic experience. I know some people talk about studio films and how their hands were tied left and right, but I felt really supported on this one.
What did you like most about this story, and how did you first get involved with it?
What I liked most about The High Note was that it was first and foremost very funny, and it was very smart. The script was written with two female leads who were both very ambitious and very, good at what they did. And it wasn't a movie about a woman stabbing another woman in the back to get ahead, or these two women weren't pitted against each other in any sort of way. They both had their own goals and their own hopes and dreams, and they intertwined in places, but nobody really was holding the other one back or behaving badly. And I really found that sadly refreshing and also really just lovely and a great message to put out there about how to support each other and how to be each other's biggest cheerleaders, because I think women are often shown as being each other's greatest enemies. And I just, love this message and putting out a better portrayal of women helping each other. And I also love that these women were sort of at a crossroads in their careers and were deciding whether they were going to take a big risk or if they were going to just sort of sit back and take the easy way. And they take like really big risks, and they're really rewarded for taking those risks, which I really love.
The casting in this film is so perfect. Tracee Ellis Ross, I'm not sure if everyone knows, but she's Diana Ross's daughter, so perfect to play a singing star. How much input do you get into casting?
Oh, you get a lot of input. I mean, as the director, you sort of you're in charge of getting the performance out of the actors. So with this one, I got to cast all of the parts except for Dakota Johnson was already attached to play Maggie before I came on. But all the other parts I really got to cast, so it was really fun. There were very few people who I could imagine bringing this part to life, and Tracee really brought all of her knowledge of growing up with a music icon to the performance and made it really memorable and beautiful.
And speaking of Maggie, I really enjoyed that character. She had so much thrown at her, so much stress, and she handled it with, a quiet confidence, and she had such a good-natured quality to her. And I felt that Dakota Johnson really played the role perfectly. As a director, how did you inspire that performance from her?
Dakota is just a naturally very talented actress, so it wasn't. It's not. I don't know that I inspired a performance from her. I think it was more. We had a lot of talks and a lot of rehearsals, and she comes from a very like deep love for music and is part of a very big music scene. So I think she had very specific ideas and thoughts about her character as a producer that I really loved and that, I tried to capture. And then the other stuff, the comedy, was really just, how I like to work with actors is to try to discover the fun and the funny in it and let them feel free and shine. And then really like, working together to figure out the best and funniest version of the scene.
I have to ask, did Tracee Ellis Ross base her performance on anyone in particular?
She did not. Tracee really pulled together her performance from a lot of different icons. We watched a lot of music icons. We talked a lot about the influences for this character, and then she really did her deep work. We really talked about like the wound in this character of like what women are asked to give up in order to achieve success, and how those choices come back and haunt us later, and whether we really needed to do that in the first place and give up the things we were told we had to give up. So we really talked about all of the emotional depth to her character. And then, she does her magic Tracee thing where she finds all the joy and funny and pathos and, heartbreak and brings it all together into one character.
How long before the pandemic hit was the film finished, and how has that affected the release?
Well, it was finished the week before the pandemic hit. It was supposed to come out on Mother's Day in May, and because of the pandemic, it got pushed. And then we also decided it was irresponsible to put the movie in theaters because we didn't want anyone like risking their lives or spreading this virus because of a movie. So I think the decision then was made by Universal and Focus to put the movie out on demand because it is such a feel-good film, and we could have said no, let's wait till next year and put it in theaters, but it felt like it was just a really uplifting story and a really good old-fashioned studio comedy where you just feel brighter and more hopeful at the end. And it felt like that was a good movie for our times right now because things were just feeling pretty dark for so long, and still kind of are.
Has any film or TV production started up yet again in California?
I've heard of a couple of things starting here and there, a couple of commercials, some documentaries. Like I'm looking at a couple of nothing on the big scale yet. How about, are you in Vancouver or Toronto?
Toronto. No, everything's locked down still. Totally.
Locked down, yeah.
You're from Vancouver, I understand. What age did you move to California?
Oh, we moved, well, I was still a kid, so we moved when I was a kid. It was kind of but a lot of my family still stayed there, so we go back and forth a lot. So Vancouver will always sort of feel like home, even though I'd probably spent more time in Toronto at this point than Vancouver.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah.
And finally, I have one last question for you. Do you know what you're working on next? And if not, what would you like to work on next?
Yes, I'm going to be working on a TV series that I created. And so hopefully that will be coming out. If we ever get to shoot again, well, that will be coming out next year.
Oh, that sounds exciting. Is there anything you can tell me about it?
No, not yet. Not yet. But hopefully soon.
Thank you so much for talking to me. And thank you for this movie. It's just such a fun, wonderful movie. It has so many different levels to it. And I just enjoyed it so much.
Oh, thank you so much.